What's up, GameLeapers? The Jizz back at it, and it is the video you have all been waiting for. Unless you play Zir, in which case it's probably a good time to look away. But yes, in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to be revealing the actual buffs and nerfs coming to your favorite champions, the item buffs and nerfs, and what these mean for the future of Summoner's Rift. Now, you're still probably going to say Clamp, because this game is more about how you play rather than who you play. Chuck Faker on any champion in the mid lane, he will still be in Challenger, or chuck Mr. Mechanics on a completely new AD carry, he will still be in Gold. So to know how to play like the best, I want you to check out the GameLeap website, because it is full of jizz. Champion courses and guides, macro guides, bot analyses, we have so much to offer, so do not miss out. Links as always in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into it, guys, and we're going to start in the bot lane here, and the two champions getting buffed, Aphelios and Xayah. Now, the Aphelios buffs you see on your screen now, they might not look like much, but trust me, these are actually pretty solid buffs. So your passive's AD is increasing to 5 to 30, so in the early game and laning phase, you're getting more AD from your passive, and what does more AD mean? Well, this means your auto attacks are going to do more, your weapons are going to do more, you're going to be healing more from your Sever and auto attacks as well, so it's really nothing to scoff at here. Also, you're going to be getting more lethality from your passive now as well, which means again squishier targets who don't build armor, which is pretty much every ADC in the game, so you're going to be doing a lot more damage to your lane opponent. Now in higher elos and in pro play, yes, these will be felt a lot more, because the problems for Aphelios still remain in a meta where damage and CC is all over the place, right? Just surviving. It's too hard to survive in lower elo where no one really cares about you. But as I said, these buffs to his AD and his lethality and his passive, these are legit buffs. So maybe Aphelios is on the up. Now as for Xayah, well, it's not the same story, and you can see on your screen now your Q damage per dagger is increasing by a little bit in the early game and increasing later in the game. Now, here's the issue. For Xayah, you max your Q last. So really you're not going to be feeling this until, well, really later in a game. And yes, okay, in the early game you might be doing a little more damage with your Q, but it still costs a decent amount of mana, so you have to be kind of careful about using it too frequently. And it's only 5 damage, like who really cares? So I'm sorry to say, Xayah mains, but your feathers will still be nearly as weak as it is. Now moving on to the two junglers getting buffed next patch, guys. And Dr. Mundo, well, listen to this. No, they're postponed. I'm joking. So these are coming at a later patch. Now the other jungler getting buffed is Olaf, and these are not coming at a later patch. So what's happening to Olaf is your health per level is increasing by 7. Now for me, I actually think this is a legit buff, because you're going to come out of the jungle healthier, you're going to be harder to kill as well, and once you get to Gore Drinker, Steris Gauge, Black Cleaver, whatever it is you go on Olaf, you are going to have a ridiculous amount of HP in there. And remember, think about the Rise buff. Rise's win rate increased by 5% in high elo because of the HP per level change. Now it won't have that much of an impact, but it will certainly have a positive impact, so Olaf might even come back into the meta now. Now for the champion nerfs, guys, and there are 3 champions there. Now I want to start with the best top laner in the game, and this is Riven. And as you can see, your E shield is decreasing by 15 at each rank. Now it might look scary at first, like you're not going to be blocking as much damage as before, but here's the thing, guys. Your E's cooldown is where its power really lies. So the fact that you can use this every like 3 seconds later in a game once you have so much ability haste, this is the real power here. So just because you're getting a little less shield, yeah, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Now the other top lane champion getting nerfed is Lee Sin, and what's happening here is your E's damage is decreasing at later ranks. But here's the thing as well, guys. The fact your E does 100 damage at rank 1, this is the true strength. And maybe this nerf discourages you from full on maxing your E, like maybe you just put 3 points in it and then you max your Q, but this certainly won't discourage players from playing Lee Sin in the mid and top lane. Now the other champion getting nerfed, guys, is Rumble, specifically in the jungle. So what Riot are doing it increasing your W's cooldown, and what this means, well, because you start W in the jungle, yes, you're not going to have this up as much, so you're not going to be overheating as much, and you're not going to be getting as many shields, so you're going to cop a little more damage. Now the other change that's coming is that your W's movement speed is decreasing by 5% at each rank as well. Now this also hits lane rumble. Yes, the W cooldown hits lane rumble, but yeah, your W isn't as impactful as your Q and E's, so this won't be felt as much in lane, but your movement speed, yes, this will be felt. So in terms of gap closing to your enemy, so in terms of dodging skill shots, in terms of roaming on the map, this certainly means something for lane rumble as well as jungle rumble. So these two changes, yes, they are definitely nerfs to rumble jungle, but the latter will hurt lane rumble in the mid and top lane. Now the big champion adjustment, guys, we have to talk about is to Viego, and Riot want him out of the mid lane into the jungle. So what's happening is that they're halving your Q's healing from minions from 100 to 50%. So this means that when you Q minions and then you auto attack them, you're not healing as much, so of course your lane sustain is impacted here. Now they're also changing your E, so your E's movement speed is increasing by 5% at each rank, which is nice, so they want you to get around the map more as jungle. But this also means if you're playing mid lane Viego, you're going to get around the map more, so this is also a buff to his lane. The E missile speed is increasing increasing, so you can throw it out quicker, and the missile length is also increasing. So yes, your Q's healing getting halved. This is certainly enough, but the other changes to his E, these are buffs to Viego overall, not just for jungle Viego. So don't expect Viego to move out of the mid lane or top lane anytime soon. Alright, now let's get into the items, guys, and what's happening here in the system, nerfs and buffs as well. And I want to start by talking about the mobility creep reduction changes here. So we made a video on these earlier, but there are a couple of little changes here. So for Stridebreaker, listen up. The holding slash damage, the total AD ratio has gone down from 150% to 100%, so it is still up 25%, and this seems like a good change because 150%, this seems like way too much. So good change from Riot here. And the other little change you've made is that the attack damage in the item is actually down by 5 now as well. So in terms of actual like offensive power, it's not going to be as much of a mythic spike here. Now another mythic item there's a subtle change to, guys, is Prowler's Claw. So the cooldown we know is increasing by 30 seconds. The sand swipe active, you can only target enemy champions now, so for Kiana, for Zed. The fact that you can't Prowler's Claw to a minion or a jungle camp, this is really big, but they're also reducing the lethality by 3, from 21 to 18, and seeing as this used to give the most lethality in the game, this brings it back in line with other items. Now these are really big nerfs for Prowler's Claw, and you might see Duskblade built more, Eclipse built more as a result. Now as for the other items, guys, with the mobility creep reduction changes, yes, none of these stats have changed from the 11-13 leaks video we made on these. So if you want all the information on those changes, make sure you check that video out. Now for the system buffs, guys, and we talked about Hullbreaker and Athena's change yesterday, the 2 new items hitting the Rift. And we also talked about the Mana Mage mythics decreasing by 200 gold in price. So Luden's Tempest, Leandric's Anguish, and Everfrost, these are all down to 3200 gold, meaning that you're going to get these earlier in a game and hit that spike earlier. So it's going to accelerate your scaling, which is great of course, because mages typically are very strong in the mid to late game. Now the other mythic getting buffed is Moonstar Renewer, and what's happening here is that your heal and shield power per stack is up by 1%, which is great, because maybe this means that Lulu, that Karma, that actual Moonstone users, this might now compete with the dominant Shirelia's Battle Song build. And last up, guys, for the system buffs, we have the Ghost Pora rune. So the Ghost Pora duration is lasting an extra 30 seconds, and they will actually reveal the enemy champions for an extra 2 seconds here. Now, is this enough to deter you from going Eyeball Collection or Zombie Ward? Maybe not, because it's still easy to stack the others, but still these are nice little buffs nonetheless. Now the last change we have to talk about, guys, is coming to Divine Sunderer, and this unfortunately is going to hit all of you Ezreal mains, but this mythic item alone has made Ezreal actually one of the strongest ADCs right now, which is kind of funny because he was one of the worst champions not so long ago. So what Riot are doing here, guys, is changing Divine Sunderer so that if you're a ranged champion, you're going to be doing less damage based off the target's max HP, so it's actually dropping by 3% here, which is a significant amount. Now will this mean that the Divine Sunderer Ezreal is no longer? Maybe, but the good news is that for you Nasus players, for you Wukong players, for you Viego players, Divine Sunderer will still be the best mythic, so it's not all doom and gloom for Summoner's Rift. But those are the 11-13 detailed changes, guys, and I'd highly recommend you check out our 11-13 leaks video, which takes you through the mobility creep changes and all of them in there because there is a lot. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to leave a like on the video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. This has been the Jizz, and until tomorrow's video, peace.